Hey ladies, let's have a heart-to-heart conversation about one of the most common complaints for women. As they're getting older, they start to notice all these changes in their bodies. And one of the things is weight gain. So if you've been thinking, I've been doing everything right, I've been listening to what my coach is telling me, I've been exercising, I've been eating less, and my doctor tells me that all of my labs are normal. What is going on? Why is it that I can't lose any weight? If you are experiencing any of these things, let me tell you, you're in the right place. It's not your fault. It's probably not your fault if you're doing all of these things right. So in this video, I'm going to shed some light on how I coach my clients using the Elevated Women's Method and how you can improve your efforts looking at your own particular situation. And that's how you are able to keep this weight off in this new life that you're in. So let's get into it. So the truth is, yes, there are some changes happening, but it's with those changes that sometimes women get it wrong. So you have estrogen, normally progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, insulin, all of these different hormones are doing their thing. But as a woman in her 20s versus a woman in maybe her 50s, those hormones look very, very different. You're probably starting to make a lot less than you were when you were 20s. So can you imagine trying to eat like a 20-year-old where you could get away with eating anything and still lose weight? Or maybe you were more active, but as you got older, you're less active. So we need to do things different. So your estrogen is declining, and your estrogen is super important for metabolism. That's why when we lose estrogen, we gain a lot of belly fat. You're losing testosterone. The way your body responds to stress is different. So your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, goes up. Of course, it's harder to lose weight. And then again, belly fat. Your insulin sensitivity is declining. So your body, when you were in your 20s, you were able to eat candy bars for lunch and you wouldn't really gain weight, right? But now try living off of candy bars and see what happens. Your blood sugars goes up, you start to develop what we call type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, and all those other things start to cause problems down the line, right? So those are the natural changes that happens. Now it's this combo where you store fat and the way you respond to stress is what we discover in the discovery phase. And then we move down into the place where we stop guessing. I find a lot of women go through all of these diet. They go on keto, they go on, the latest trend, the Weight Watchers. It's not that these things don't work. They work in the short run, but how to keep the weight off that women struggle with. They'll lose 10 pounds, 20, 30, and then they'll gain it back and more. When you are in a calorie deficit to lose weight, you'll lose the weight, but what happens is your body wants to go back to its original set point. So it starts to look for ways to gain the weight back because it thinks you're stressed. Or women will starve themselves and work out really hard, and then they reach their goal, and then they stop, and then boom, it's back up again. So instead of trying to guess, during that discovery alignment phase is where we look at what is happening after meals. Does your energy crash after meals? How is your sleep? What are you eating and how are you eating it? How do you feel after eating? Are you getting bloated? Are you getting gassy? Do you have inflammation in your gut? If all of these things are happening, most likely, you're struggling with gut, inflammation, food sensitivities, overgrowth of bacteria, possibly. There's a lot of things that can cause that. And if there's inflammation, it can wreak havoc on your body. And then the other thing is too, you make something called GLP-1RA, which is a particular hormone that allows you to eat less. Unfortunately, over time, we lose this ability. So there's that increase in hunger hormones too. So ghrelin, you want to eat more. So what you're supposed to do is eat foods that are going to help improve that. It's not the easiest thing to do, especially if you've had a really bad diet for so long, but it is possible to do it. So if you've heard of Ozempic, all those kind of medications, that's what that injection is. It's actually giving you that GLP that's missing, that you're not necessarily making a lot of anymore because of obesity. And then we start to give that to you and that causes weight loss. So this part might really surprise you. A lot of people think that they eat enough fiber. You don't eat enough fiber. We don't eat enough fiber. Fiber is super important, especially during this age, because it helps regulate your blood sugars, it keeps you full for longer, and then it actually can lead to weight loss. So in the nourish phase, we're essentially giving your body what it needs to thrive. So your proteins, your fiber, if there's any micronutrients or macronutrients that you're missing, that gets replaced. And you'll be surprised when you start to eat like that, your blood sugars are more regulated, so you don't have those hunger cravings like you do. And then we talk about movement. So ladies, I've coached some women that say, I just don't like to exercise. So the way I approach this is our bodies are not made to be still. I don't care what it is. Our bodies are not made to be still. So if you are just constantly in a one position or not moving, not standing, not walking, it's bad, period. So there is no excuse. There should be some form of movement in your day. Now, I don't expect you to become a marathon runner or become a gym buff all of a sudden, but it's through this phase where we start to rewire. Why I call it the rewire is because you need to really shift your mindset around things. Like, well, I don't have to exercise to lose weight. I just need to eat less. Or no. This is part of your lifestyle. Think about how people used to live back in those days when we didn't have transportation, right? People would walk miles and miles and miles a day. And, they were in the farms and things like that. We were not made to just sit. So when you don't move around, you're not able to expel the energy that you've just taken in from eating. So in the rewiring phase, we are essentially learning how in this crazy world we live in where we are juggling so many things, especially us as women, how can I fit in movement? I don't even want to use the word exercise. I think sometimes when we label things, people kind of have a negative connotation to it, or it seems like a chore, but it's movement. And movement should be, it's an honor, it's a privilege to be able to just move. There are people that wish they can get up and just walk. So walking is a great way to lose weight. Walking is a great way to reduce stress. It's a great way to improve sleep. Even your mood. Walking alone can do so much. So women, ladies, whatever you can do, you don't need a whole lot of time, but it needs to be incorporated into your daily moving. Even lifting weights doesn't have to be a time where you're doing strength training. How can you incorporate moving or heavy lifting so that you can maintain that muscle mass that you need? Muscle mass equals longevity. When you're in your 60s and 70s and beyond, and you want to be as independent as possible, those joints need to be nicely lubricated. They need to get used to weight-bearing activity. But if you're sitting all the time, your joints will start to feel like, well, I don't really need to do anything. And you start to get things like arthritis, especially if you're overweight, right? You start to have all of those other symptoms where you might even start to feel older than you actually are because you're just not moving. So ladies, movement is an absolute natural, and it's not just for weight loss. Again, this is a whole lifestyle thing. So ladies, you don't need a new diet plan. In my coaching, the Elevated Women's Method, we try to figure out a way that we can develop new habits. We can stack new habits. You can trust yourself, because ladies, I know you've probably tried different things. You've tried this diet and that diet. I'm like, well, what makes you think this is going to work? Well, the reason why all those other things didn't work was because it was just another new thing. This is not a real new thing. This is you. So it's very unique to you. It's adapting to your lifestyle. You might have some other things that might be playing a role in your body. And that's why one size doesn't fit all for any kind of diet plan or lifestyle plan or anything, because we need to take a look at your genetic history, your medical history, your likes and dislikes, your environment, your cultural. All of these things play a role. So how can you expect a one-size-fit-all diet plan to work for everybody? And the same thing for medications. Medications, it's FDA approved, everybody takes the medication, but some people will react differently to others, right? So you are unique. You are beautiful the way you are. I tell them all the time, it's not that you're broken. It's not that there's anything wrong with you. It just means we need to figure out a plan that will be sustainable. And I don't look at this journey as a linear process where you start here and then you end here and that's it. And when my women, when I see them in clinic and they've reached their goal, I said, no, this is just the beginning. This is where you need to do the hard work now. This is how you need to really rewire the way you're thinking about how you're eating, how you're responding to stress. But before you can actually keep that, you have to really dwell in that rewire phase. That's always the hardest part. It's where you really need to understand your why. why you do things and why you want to get to that goal that you want to get to, whatever that goal is, whether it's not a number on the scale, but why do I want to lose weight? Is it because I want to be able to play with my grandkids? I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to not have to book a first class seat just so I can sit down. It's relearning the habits that's going to make this sustainable. Okay, so what is the take home from here? Yes, there are changes happening. We know that there's hormonal changes. We need to learn to adapt to those changes as we get older by fueling our body, by moving. But the movement needs to work with your lifestyle, right? Nourishing your body with the right foods. And then relearning things, right? And not looking at certain things as a chore, but a way to thrive, as a way to recommit to your body again. And we learned that this is not a linear process. This is something that is constantly going over and over again. You're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have days where you're just craving everything, and you're gonna get over that and you're gonna get right back on it again, because what matters is consistency, right? It's not what you do one day or 2 days, it's what you do over and over and over again that really matters. Okay, so I can't wait to see you in the next video. Please leave your comments. Let me know if this video resonates with you, and if there's anything that you want to learn about, please drop them in the comment section. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.